guys, it's me Rebecca. So this will be the start of another weekly vlog. And so far today I've just done some work on my laptop. I edited my November wrap-up, which I filmed yesterday, and I've also done some cleaning and whatnot. And on Friday, this coming Sunday, I did start The Lost Village by Camilla Stein, and this is translated by Alexandra Fleming. I am currently on the Goodreads page for the book, as I am reading the hardback, and I do take up the dust jackets and one of the dust jackets upstairs in my lady. Well, this is about documentary filmmaker Alice Landstedt has been obsessed with the vanishing residents of the old mining town dubbed the Lost Village since she was a little girl. In 1959, her grandmother's entire family disappeared in this mysterious tragedy, and ever since the unanswered questions surrounding the only two people who were left, a woman stoned to death in a town center and an abandoned newborn, have plagued her. She's gathered a small crew of friends in a remote village to make a film about what really happened. But there will be no turning back. Not long after they've set up camp, mysterious things begin to happen. Equipment is destroyed, people go missing as doubt breeds fear, and their minds begin to crack. One thing becomes startlingly clear to Alice. They are not alone. And with this one, we see that Alice, she is kind of down on her luck. She's not as successful as she wishes she was, and she cannot help but see her classmates from the film college intended to be successful, getting these dream jobs, and she's just stuck being a receptionist. And for her, making this documentary is really her only chance. She sees it as, and it's really like she's taken the stories that her grandmother told her and her grandmother's research that she conducted and letters her grandmother's sister wrote to her. That is really what is driving Alice. And she does get a group through. They're quite an interesting cast, I would say. One girl, Emmy, is her former best friend from college, who ditched her essentially when Alice was in a very bad headspace. She was extremely depressed, and a friend was like, I can no longer be in this situation, and thus essentially abandoned her when Alice was at her worst. And for some reason, Emmy is treating her very coldly and almost poorly for some reason. I'm just wondering if there's more to that, because if it was as simple as Alice being, or I just don't really understand why Emmy's treating her so coldly, and it seems like Alice, she was almost reluctant to bring Emmy onto this project. Like, she only did so because she had no other choice, and it seems like this is why that Emmy is quite competitive, it seems so like, and a perfectionist, which isn't a bad thing, but still. Then we also have Tone, who she also has her own history, I guess, with this village, as her mother was the baby that was found, and her mother doesn't want anything to do with this project whatsoever. And Tone, she is also going through her own stuff, and I'm not gonna say what it is because that would be a major spoiler. That would be a bit of a spoiler, but because this village is quite old and has been abandoned for about over 60 years, roughly, the structure's not so stable, and because a lot of the buildings, especially staircases, were made out of wood, are unstable, and Tone, it seems like, foul, and her leg's quite swollen, and she was reluctant to take painkillers or go to the hospital. Really, the hospital is because they have 5 days in a village to grab enough footage, and I guess footage related for a Kickstarter to fund a movie and do it properly. So she was really doing that, but still. And then there's Max, who is, I don't know, a friend of Alice and Robert, who's a friend of Emmy's, and maybe more than a friend of Emmy. But right when they get to the village, like, weird stuff starts to happen. They start seeing people who shouldn't be there, almost like ghosts, and they start hearing things and whatnot, and it's all quite strange. And the part where I got up to is somehow one of their vans exploded, and it's not like it was an accident. Someone triggered a fire and blew that van up. It also caused damage to another van, and Max's car in which he drove in. And they all think it's Tonda's because of her thing, and because she is nowhere to be found, so they're all very suspicious of her. But Alice, who's been in Tonda's shoes before, and like the way her mental state has been, is convinced it wasn't her, that maybe because they've all seen weird stuff happening. So yeah, and we also get, I guess, flashbacks to before the villagers disappeared, and we get the perspective mainly from Alice's great grandmother, and also we do see the letters that Alice's grandmother received from her sister. And with Elsa, Alice's great grandmother, she is taking care of this woman named Brigitta or something, she's kind of who's isolated from the rest of the community. She's been described as having the brain of a child when she's an adult woman. So yeah, and there is this new pastor who comes to town, and he's because he's charming, he's good looking. The youngsters in the village are drawn to him and want to impress him, and they start believing in what he's saying. It's almost like cultish in a way, but with religion, and he is convinced that evil resides in Brigitta, and Brigitta is the poor woman who was found stoned to death in that town square. And so I can't help but think if he has something to do with their disappearance, because it seems like he also took advantage of the situation that people were in, as a mine company which worked in town, in which people relied on to get their income, shut down, and a lot of people were lost and confused, didn't know what to do next. A lot of people were going to be forced to move, and it was all very scary situation. A lot of people just were confused, and it seems like this pastor took advantage of that and convinced the young people in the village that he was a savior of some sort. And we see the way Anna, Alice's grandmother's sister, I don't know what that would be in terms of relations, but how she's changing, how she is listening to the pastor, and how she is caught up in religion as well. And I don't know, the pastor is like, oh, we're all a flock, we have to work together and eliminate the evil. And he thinks that evil is Brigitta, who is a woman who's just alone and has no one except Elsa. So I'm guessing he's using that to his advantage. And it seems like Alice's grandmother thought this man was a fraud, or there is something, because she had found someone whose name was the exact same as the pastor's, who had a rough upbringing, and it seems like he just wanted somewhere to not get payback, but to, I don't know, because he is someone who had who had a violent, unstable childhood, who's been accused of sexual assault, and has been rejected from Kurgi school twice. So who knows what that is about, but yeah, I'm curious in seeing the days leading up to the disappearance and what the hell is going on here. But yeah, it's all kind of, it is not atmospheric, but it is, I wouldn't say atmospheric in the sense like, oh, I can feel the setting because it's just a village in the springtime. But it's more like I can feel the tension in the group, and I can feel the suspense even for times the writing. I don't know if it's this how it was translated as goes over my head, but I just don't, I feel myself a bit disconnected from it, I would say. So yeah, but really I am intrigued on what's happening, and yeah, I think that's all for now. I'm sorry if it's dark, but I just don't want to turn on a lamp. So yeah. So it's the next day, and I had to go out to run some errands, and I also did some work on my computer. And I also did some reading of The Lost Village Premiere on page 278. Let me double check, that's the right page because I'm a bit paranoid. Yeah, 278. I do plan to read a bit more today. But so far I'm definitely intrigued in the sense the others, because they think Tone is behind what happened with the event, and they think because she's not taking her medicine that she's having a break, and they worry of her, and they kind of have to isolate themselves from her to protect themselves from her, and they're hiding out in the church. And Alice suggests they go into the school just to see if they can find her or any evidence, and when they do that, they go up the stairs, and it collapses, it breaks, and Emmy, it seems like, is stuck on one floor, and everyone else just fell through, and they have to go through a fire escape to get to Emmy, because it seems like she broke her ribs, and they find her dead. Alice, it seems initially, believed it was her fault, because if she hadn't suggested them going to the school, and how if she hadn't brought Emmy onto this project, then this wouldn't have happened. But they find evidence that Emmy was strangled, that she didn't die because they punctured the lungs. So, but the one thing I like is that we kind of, I guess, there is some closure, I guess, between Emmy and Alice, in the sense like Emmy just apologizes for leaving Alice alone, and that she actually always had faith in Alice and in this project. But I don't know, it just seems like at times Emmy just treated her coldly. So speaking of her characters, is that Max kind of took a 380 in a sense, like he revealed to Alice he always had feelings for her, and there was definitely something there between him, I guess. But he's just upset with her that it seems like it's not the right time, which isn't, and he just calls her a freak essentially. So yeah, and they do find they find Tony, who is, it seems like she's out of it completely, so I'm curious about what that's about. But we also go back to in the past, and it seems like more of the villagers are on the side of the pastor, and more people have turned against Elsa and Brigitte, even Elsa's own husband. And it generally just seems like the pastor's just using advantage of the hopelessness that the people in the village feel about of the mine closing, and he's using that. And it seems like he has convinced them that Brigitte is evil. And one of the other village girls who is on Elsa's side, Dagmar, I believe that's how you say her name, she comes to find Elsa, and because Brigitte is making sounds, and we learn that Brigitte is actually pregnant, and she's actually giving birth. So yeah, I have my suspicions on that one, but Yeah, because considering we know that the child found in the school is actually Patricia's daughter, I'm wondering what will happen next, because we do see that there's some hope, it seems like, with Elsa and again Bridget and her daughter out of this village, but we do see that it never comes into fruition. So I am I guess kind of scared on what's gonna happen next and what really caused everyone to disappear. So yeah, that's all my thoughts for now. I still have some more work I need to do, so I'll see you when I see you. So it's the next day, and it's quite a lovely day to stay inside, as it's raining and snowing, and it is a bit cold outside. So yeah, and I have done some work on my computer, and I would like to do some more before the day is over. But I have done quite a bit of reading, and I did finish The Lost Village, and I enjoyed the ending. We do get another death, and before learning like who's behind everything and why they're doing it, like we learned at the village, like initially it seems like it was like a mass sacrifice, that it would be pure, that after they stoned Bridget, they went to the mines to be in complete darkness, because apparently the pastor's like, this is the only way God's gonna accept us or something like that. And seems like it was supposed to be a whole sacrifice, but it seems like something didn't go as planned. And Anna, who was so Alice's grandmother's sister, she was left behind. It seems like she did have a relationship with the pastor, and or was his like chosen one or whatever. And she thinks trying to get rid of the soul of Bridget that will allow her to get back to the village, to the others. So yeah, there was that, and let me see the end of everything. Yeah. Overall, I don't know. I just didn't really feel, I guess, connected to it, just because I think of the writing style, or probably the translation. I'm not sure which was the one that hindered it a bit, but it was quite an interesting story. So yeah, overall 4 stars. And I then studied the story of a new name by Elena Ferranti, and this is translated from the Italian, I believe, by Anne Goldstein. And this is the second book in the Neapolitan novels. The first book was My Brilliant Friend, and I'm currently on page 40 through. It seems like the story itself doesn't really start properly, I guess, until page 15. So about 25, 26 pages I've read so far. And so far it's interesting, I guess. I don't really know. But we see Lila getting married, and her to kind of deal with, I guess, the betrayal of Steve on her husband, of selling her shoes to, and her family's company, and I guess to a family who she despises, hates. And he's like, this will help you in your family and get money, and you don't have to say, you're my property, essentially. Like, it's that old-fashioned thinking. And we see as well just how miserable she is, and how she wants this to go her husband. And it seems like she realizes she made a mistake. And we follow Elena, I think, as she's also grappling with her own thing. Like, because Lila left, she just feels, I guess, wonderless. I guess I don't really know how to describe it, but She is missing school and pretending she's going when really she's just going around Naples and whatnot. And she is, I don't even know what to call this, but she does have a boyfriend, but there is something between her and another boy. So there's also that, but so far it's okay. I'm intrigued. I guess so. Yeah, but yeah, I think that's all for now. I'm gonna go do some work. So it's the next day, and I have to say I'm sorry about my hair. My bangs are not cooperating with me today, and I did take a nap, so that's probably also it. So, but I did do some work, and I also did some reading of the story of a new name, and I'm on page 138, and I'm definitely enjoying this, even though it's been probably a year, maybe a year and a half, really, since I read my brilliant friend. Like, did I read it last year or the year before? I think it was last year. But I'm definitely, like, with context, remembering, like, what happened or what we were told of the lives of these two girls in the previous book. But I do have to say that one thing I am liking about it is that Elena, she is worried with the way she's seeing things of repeating cycles. Like, she, Lila, and others, they grew up witnessing their fathers beat their mothers, and she's worried that, or she thinks really that they will be just like their parents. They will fall into the same pattern because that's really all they know how the relationships work. And she thinks with the way Lila is changing, and really with the way she is changing, that she will really have more of her father's body than her mother's in that regard. And I do find that is quite something interesting being explored. It's like we see our parents, how they behave to one another as an example, and because we don't really know anything else, we, I guess, kind of replicate their behavior and take it on as our own. There was another word I wanted to say, but it was like slipping my mind, and I'm like, and yeah, and that's very interesting to see. And with Lila, we see her, she's not really playing into the role she's expected. Like, she is helping her husband around and in his store, setting up a new location, but she's not pregnant yet, and that is really what she expected of her, to give her husband a son. And Lila, she does get pregnant, and she seems to have a different kind of energy where she's, I would almost say she's restless, in the sense like she's been out in the store, kind of making sure everything is in its proper place, and then moving in when she's not happy with how the movers are doing it. And she does have a miscarriage. And we also see her, like, the dressmaker that made her wedding dress, one of the wedding pictures blown up to show in store, and she is wearing the shoes she created for her brother's business who is now working with these brothers who she didn't get along with when she was younger. They see that picture, they want it, and so they have Stefano take it. At first he's a bit back and forth, allowing them to have it in the store, and Lila, knowing Stefano and again Henry, kind of makes it better for Elena. It's like, if I am able to get him to do it, you have to study hard. If not, I'll just go back to school and catch up to you, and we'll be in the same level. and Elena almost is like kind of wanting that, because she knew when she was in school with Lila that she was in Lila's shadow. Like, Lila was number 1 and she was number 2. But Stefano, gives it to the brothers, and well, Lila kind of makes it her own thing. I don't know, her reason or not, but yeah. And with Elena, she is lost, I would say. She stopped going to school, didn't drop out, but has really stopped caring until Lila almost forced her to go back. And her grades weren't as well as they once were. And yeah, and she does lose her scholarship. And that's an important part of that is that her I guess love triangle with Antonio and Nino. She is dating Antonio, but there are some lingering feelings with Nino. And with Antonio, he is being drafted into the army and he doesn't want to go, and she promised she would find a way, and she wasn't able to, and when she did, well, he got upset with that. And with Nino, Antonio thinks there's something with Nino, even for Elena's reassuring him they are just friends, and at the moment she has neither, because Nino graduated high school and went off to England. And Antonio's upset with her and joined the army and isn't talking to her, so there's that whole dynamic. And yeah, I don't know, I just like following the lives of these girls, because I forget that they're only like 17, but sometimes they be like they're much older. And I know it is like Elena from the future telling us the story as she is older, but still, like these kids really have had to grow up extremely fast. It was something that was expected of them, is to go through basic schooling, get a partner, get a husband or a wife, get married, inherit the family business, continue on and have kids. Like, that's really it. And it's a pattern that's always been, I guess, set in stone and whatnot, and they just don't really know anything else because of how they were raised and whatnot. And I should also mention, Elena is also a bit envious, I guess, of Lila, because where they grew up in Naples, they basically grew up in poverty, and they were extremely poor. Like, they did have a roof over their head, but they just didn't really have much money. And Lila, by working in Stefano's grocery store, she has money now, and she's just giving it away. And Elena's like, "You're not taking anything for yourself." Like, I don't know, I think people expect you have money, you're greedy with it, so there's that. But yeah, so far I'm liking it. And yeah, I think that's all for now. So it's the next day, and I've done some work and whatnot, and I've done quite a bit of reading of the story of a new name, and I'm on page 200. And again, I'm still enjoying this, which I don't know why I keep saying this. If I was not enjoying this, I'd probably DNF it by now, but not probably, definitely, but anyway. With my words so far today, because I think I might try and read a bit more later, but I wanted to film before it gets too dark and before I become too delirious and start not really making sense. But we see with Elena how she is someone who goes to school. She's in high school, and one of her professors, which it's a female professor, so I don't think it's too weird, but I don't know, it's still weird for a professor to be like, "Hey, you want to come over to my house and form a party?" Like, but, I mean, this is a professor who has taken Elena under her wing, but still, I just found that quite weird. But apparently, Elena is not the only one. This professor has invited other students, and Elena feels like she's a part of this group. Like, she's intelligent, even though she's not 100% confident in knowing what they're talking about. She kind of gets the gist of it, but still she is insecure in a sense. Like, she doesn't fully understand what people are talking about even, and thinks there's still some naivety in her, and in a sense, like, no matter how much she reads, she just won't really understand. And she brings Lila along, and Lila has a different experience in this party, as it's quite different to what she's used to. Like, Lila is used to being the center of attention, people wave to her and whatnot, and at this party it seems like people are just like ignoring her, and the aftermath causes a bit of a drift with Elena and Lila, as Lila tries to put Elena down and tries to destroy her self-esteem. Like, Elena was having a good time and was happy, and Lila was just trying to make it not so good and miserable for her. So yeah, and Elena, she is trying to get to Nino and get to him, but she is spending time with him in a friend capacity, and she likes that. And Lila's mother and her sister-in-law, they took her to an OB, and they're like, apparently Lila's like body's weak or some BS of that sort, where she can't keep a child even when she's pregnant, and she's just told to swim, and they go to an island where Nino happens to be, and yeah, we see some conversations, and then it's all like this friendly and respectful, but I'm just curious and seeing what will happen next. And yeah, so far I'm just enjoying the slice of life sort of it all, and yeah, I'm seeing Elena and Lila's, I guess, up and down again friendship. Like, sometimes they're close, they talk a lot, and sometimes Elena wants to keep her distance, but even though she knows Lila might not be the best for her, she's still drawn to Lila and kind of really fully escape the orb, I guess, of her, and kind of really leave the Lila's shadow entirely, or feel like she can. So there's that, but yeah, that's like so far. So yeah, I think that's all for now. And so it's the next day, and I've done some work on my laptop, and I also did some reading of The Story of a New Name, and I'm on page 300. I did do some more reading last night, like I said I would, and yeah, definitely enjoying it. I'm trying to think of, like, if I want to say that, because it's kind of might be a bit repetitive. Like, I don't mean repeating the same conversation I had earlier in this vlog is repetitive, but still. But we see with Elena, she and Lila's sister-in-law, they are on vacation to get Lila to swim more because it's recommended by her doctor in order to have children. And initially they were gonna go to another island. When Elena learned that Nino was gonna be at this island, and she persuaded everyone just to go there. And this backfired on her massively, because initially she and Nino, they're discussing, they're having their conversations, then Lila joins in, and it's quite obvious that Nino's attracted to Lila, and there was something going on there, and it was obvious, as Elena had also thought that Nino's friend Bruno was attracted to the sister-in-law, but it turns out Bruno's attracted to Elena, which doesn't really make sense because he didn't really spend time with her and he wasn't really there. And we see that, and we see kind of, I guess, the toxicity of Nino and Lila's relationship. I mean, of course, they cannot be more than what's going on, because, I mean, she's married, and he did have a girlfriend who Lila did have him break up with her, but Lila was also a hypocrite, because he was like, okay, if I have to break up with my girlfriend, leave your husband, like, that makes sense, like, but with Lila, it's more complicated than that, especially with the fact she's been, I guess, deflowered already, I guess is the way to put it. So, and as well, it would be a sin and whatnot to try and divorce her husband. So yeah, and what else is that Lila's almost like not persuaded Nino, but it's kind of caused Nino to want to just quit university and find a job so he can be with Lila properly. And Lila, it seems like she does care for Nino, and she had later given Elena her diaries, and she does mention how since she was married, she's felt like she's been dying inside, and Nino's brought something alive in her once more. And where I stopped today is some of their friends had come onto this island. They saw Nino and Lila close, and someone told Stefano, Lila's husband, and he goes on the island every weekend to see her, and he's there to spend the midsummer holiday with her. He confronts her about it, so I am curious on where that's gonna go, and because yikes. So, and with Elena, she is still, I guess, drawn to the Sator family, if that's how you pronounce that last name. As she does have, as Nino's father, Donatello, kind of takes advantage of the fact she's in a vulnerable place and sweet talks her because she is vulnerable and thinking of what Lila and Nino are up to and them spending time together, and especially with the fact they're alone in Bruno's house and they have the entire place to themselves. So yeah, he takes advantage of that, and the two have sex, and he does, I don't know, she does feel not, I don't even know, like she, we are seeing this from an older older Elena's point of view, and we are knowing her perspective from it, but now she is no. Essentially, like, I don't really know if she feels like she's been violated or what, but yeah, there's that, and yeah, I'm kind of scared to see how this confrontation between Lila and Stefano goes, because previously in their marriage he has been quite violent. A couple of instances we've seen, especially on their honeymoon, and I'm just a bit scared. And I mean, it is his reputation, so he has a lot to worry about. And if he does believe that Nino and Lila slept together and Lila falls pregnant, I mean, he's not gonna believe it's his kid. So I'm just curious on how that goes. So yeah, I think that's all for now. So it's the next day, and it's also the end of this vlog. And as you saw today, probably, I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to put a clip in or not. It did snow today. I had to run some errands today, and I swear the forecast promised very low percentage of snow for mid-morning, but it was snowing early in the morning, so yeah, that was fun, but very beautiful. Food doesn't come out in the afternoon, which was just quite interesting. It was a whole 180. Yeah, and yeah, I went my errands, my grocery shopping, so that's good. And I did some reading of the story of a new name, and I'm on page 356, and I'm definitely liking it. We see Elena, she decides to break off her friendship with Lila. She hears some things about Lila from her friends in the neighborhood, but that's pretty much it. She doesn't want to be involved with Lila anymore, especially after what happened with her and Nino. And Elena, she continues studying, continues to get good grades, and she is taking her graduating exam when this professor tells her about this university where in Pisa, where if you take their exam, you're able to go to university for free. It seems like she does that. We see her in university as it's like she is now in a very different environment when she is used to, and she has to kind of, she changes herself, like the way she talks and the way her etiquettes to fit in, because everyone there, they've been educated properly their entire lives, they come from good families, and she's comes from poverty, so she is from a different background. Sorry if you hear that, I keep in my camera lens, so yeah, I think that is interesting. And she does come back to Naples and once into Lila, and then turns out that Lila and Nino, their affair kept curing, and now Lila's pregnant and in his plan to leave Stefano. And with Nino, Elena, my word, heard that he's not been doing good. He apparently quit studying, and the professor who Elena got on with has a negative opinion of him because he was dating her daughter and broke up with her for no reason. It seems like they were like out of nowhere. So yeah, and Lila, she has been working to try and make herself a bit more independent from Stefano and from the neighborhood, so that she's in a position where she's able to leave. And she's not really taking people's feelings into consideration. For her, it's like a game, it seems like. So that's also quite interesting. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to that scene when Lila leaves Stefano, because I don't know. But I'm just waiting for something to fall apart in Lila's skin, but it seems like so far, I don't know, someone got what she's wanted, but things are falling apart for her, so. But yeah, I think that's all for now. And as it is Saturday, that's also the end of this video. So if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below telling me what you've been up to recently. If you want to, please subscribe to this channel. And if you want to follow me on any social media, all those things are in the down bar below. I'll see you guys next time I post a video.